having masculine and feminine energy in a child's life that is balanced with two loving people. Anyone who doesn't accept that is a moron. I'd challenge anyone to give me evidence against. A stupid can't be fixed. This is one of those stupid should be fixed kind of scenarios. So, boy, I sound like an angry old man, but I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks.
I want to go back about 6 years, age 51, 52 for you, because you went through what I think a lot of men in particular, but people generally go through at some point in their lives, 30s, 40s, 50s, what you call like an identity challenge. So for context for the audience, you had started at one point an agency and sold it. A couple software companies sold them. You start another business, and that's where you kind of run into this feeling of being trapped. I think some of it might have been hormonal, you've said, but besides that, you're going through what, about $150,000 in losses per month, and to unravel is a couple million. I mean, this is a real, like, what do I do? Because you're asking the question many of us do at that point. Like, I don't even know what else I would do. This is who I've always been. Do you recall a specific bottom, a moment where you realized it's done? Who I've been is over. And what was that?
Yeah, well, I wish I could have articulated it that well at the time. After I went through the process, the way I described it is I had really outgrown who I was, what I did, why I did it, who I did it for. And the entrapment came from the fact that I got up in the morning and I hated my business. I had outgrown my team. They felt like an anchor, and I felt like a mule in my life and my business, meaning if I didn't do everything, the whole world was going to crash. And I was burning my net worth at a substantial rate a month. And there wasn't an easy way out. Like I couldn't just light a match and walk away. To unravel the business would cost $2 million. I'm burning a ton of cash on marketing and business stuff that didn't work. And I had 18 months worth of commitments on hotels for events that I didn't want to do anymore. So at the time, I had a business called You Everywhere Now, and we were helping authors write books. We were helping people learn how to become speakers, paid speakers, media training them. And I had sold these two software businesses, which did have recurring income. Okay, so basically, I'm in a business where I got to burn my body, my energy, and a lot of cash to fill up events and go through a multi-layered sales process. And I was like, ugh, I don't want to talk to these, a lot of the people I was working with, I just didn't want to have conversations with them anymore. And it's not that they weren't nice people. It's like, I didn't want to talk to anyone who was struggling, building their first business or struggling with the one they had. And I literally wanted a bus to drive over me and kill me. I didn't have the courage to kill myself, but I was suicidal, anxious, and I'd never felt that way ever before in my life. And I'll stop there because there's more places to go, but I'm sure you've got some questions about what happened next or whatever. I mean, my wife was a great supporter, thank God. But
I was going to ask that. Besides maybe family or some, like, how impactful or important was the presence of, or the lack of, I don't know which it was, a network, a community that you could relate to and have a conversation with in that time?
Okay, so here's part of the problem I had is I had been a go-to guy and a bit of a guru for a long time. And for me to say, oh, I'm broken, I was afraid that I would, if I didn't act like I had my shit together, I'd be abandoned. Okay. Now that was a stupid hallucination, but I grew up poor. I was used to always being the one who kept the wheels on the bus. And if I felt if I showed any sign of weakness, my clients would abandon me. The team that I wanted around me would abandon me. And that the people who I considered my peers would think I'm weak. So now I know that's not true now, but at the time, it was hubris, ego, and a lot of fear and a lot of accumulated trauma that I was completely unaware of. But it was my wife who said, why don't you just take a year off? You're a multi-millionaire. You've been working your ass off. You could quit working for 2 years and we'd still be fine. And I had all these, but, and I that was the first time probably in my life that I actually felt like, that's not a hallucination. Now, I still was like, I'm burning a lot of cash, baby. I don't want to have to do this all over again. It makes me feel trapped. The thought of starting over, of ratcheting backwards, terrified me at my core. I was used to being in an environment like my dad was a barber. He had to work every day. There were
Mm.
4 kids to feed. I was the oldest. Like, I watched the struggles they went through, and I'm like, F that. I never, ever want to be going backwards. That to me was hell. It was worse than death. And again, another illusion. But I was lucky that I had some people around me who saw my pain and could articulate it in a way that I could hear in ways I couldn't myself. And that was kind of like the beginning of the turnaround.
Is it necessary, do you think, or have you learned from others that everybody will eventually, and that needs to accept the reset, the identity challenge at some point in their lives? Is it a necessary thing to go backwards a bit when you're a high achieving, driven entrepreneur like yourself? The key to life, it isn't money, it's happiness. And when you measure how happy you are, you actually become even more happy. Our friends at GoBundance, the tribe of millionaires, use a very specific tool to measure their happiness. It's called the Life Happiness Index, and you can have it too. Go over to GoBundance.com/LHI and take your Life Happiness Index assessment. You'll rate yourself in multiple categories on exactly how happy you are and get a custom output for you specifically that you can use in developing whatever goals you have for your life. GoBundance is the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. And the tool GoBundance members use at the base of all of that is the Life Happiness Index. Get out there and grab life big.
Yeah, I think there's I've heard this described before, and I may get the fact or the words wrong, but I think the idea is right. So I've heard it described as a Saturn phase in a male's life where you have your moment of proof, usually around 14. That's like you transition from boyhood to manhood. It might be the time you stand on stage and you sing, or you have your touchdown pass, or whatever tribal transition, boyhood to manhood there is. There's another one around 27 and another one in the 40s. And what I believe happens is when a man in particular, or a masculine energy, whichever, misses that opportunity, something is broken or lost.
Wow.
And I do believe we live in a society of broken boys and broken men now, who don't act like it, they don't behave like it, and they've never experienced that, aha, I have value. But at some point, you do outgrow this thing. It's like the soul wants to scream out. And I think if you don't act upon it, if you don't take advantage of it, you become a miserable addict, alcoholic, or a miserable, angry person and start to die. Your soul dies first, and then your body follows quickly. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. Now, I had a cancer wake up, 12 years ago. That was one of my first, where I definitely dealt with, I am going to die. This is it. What have I done with my life? Has it mattered? And what kind of regrets do I have? And then this one was also hormonal. Like, there's no doubt about it. Hormonally, something was off with me. I was having these anxiety attacks. I've never not been a happy guy. I was miserable, and I didn't know what depression was. Like, I was depressed. I didn't know it. I was anxious. I didn't know it. I just felt off, and I wanted to be dead.
Man, did you go through, on the hormonal side, did you do any treatment or therapy on that,
Yeah.
on that side?
Thank God. One of my clients was a Hollywood hormone doctor specialist, and I just broke down one day because I started just crying for no reason. I lost my courage. I was afraid to stand on stage, and I started to cry, like, I just out of nowhere. And I'm like, what the F is wrong with me? And I couldn't sleep. And like, I'd never been a pill popper, but I started getting some Ambien just to sleep at night. Well,
Sure.
that doesn't really help. Okay. And eventually those damn things quit working. So now I'm a pill popping idiot who can't sleep, and I'm anxious. So it just compounds itself, and you feel horrible because your brain isn't really sleeping. It just like shuts off. Your brain needs to stay on to do its work, to clean up the traumatic messes that occurred during your waking hours. It's like those aren't good things. Okay. They might get you through just so your body doesn't fizzle. But anyway, I did get some help. It took about 45, 60 days. And once I got a little bit of my shadizzle back, I quit drinking. I cut out all carbs. I started working
Well,
out every day hard, running hard, working out hard. And I lost some weight. I started looking good, feeling good. At least my body got better, even though my brain was broken. And then I basically started really, really, really settling into my coaching and, digging deeper into Strategic Coach, Genius Network. And I got some therapy, some
yeah.
deep therapy. I did some deep spiritual work.
I love your point that you said about, I forget, Saturn. I can't remember what exactly the word was, but
Yeah, Saturn phase. I think that's what it's
Saturn
called. And
phase.
and again, I should research it. But a psychotherapist I worked with um, introduced me to a book, and I'll look it up in the background here because I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, no. So what's interesting, whatever it's called, or I think everyone experiences it. In my world, we were talking before we started recording. It was okay. I got this job, making a good living. I've tied myself to it, and then suddenly, like something in my soul, to your point, just was
Hmm.
rejecting it, or my soul was growing out of it. And a lot of guys I talked to hit that point as well. Actually, almost all of them, mid 40s, early 40s, something like that, tends to be the timeline. But some a little later, some a little earlier. But to your point, many numb through, most numb through to the other
Hmm.
side somehow, some way. They convince themselves they've fallen back in love with their work. They'll drink, they'll do something just to kind of numb through and then settle in on the other side. And it takes a lot
Yeah.
of courage, and I'll give myself credit for this, to make a bold move to sort of align with your
Hmm.
soul. My question for
Yeah.
you, maybe this is for me, as I'm now like I call myself like a midlife entrepreneur, not a true blood entrepreneur. I started out, I need a job, and then eventually kind of came to my awakening, and it's been a great experiment for me. But I
Yeah.
can feel tremendous growth in the few years I've been out of the job. I can see a tremendous horizon in front of me. But I also wonder or see, or I don't know, predict another identity challenge coming. My question for
Yeah.
you is that something you struggle with or anticipate, or is that
Oh,
simply waiting for the other shoe to drop?
wow. So um, I've been doing a podcast with Gay Hendricks, who's the author of The Big Leap and over 50 other books. He's
Amazing book.
79 years old. He's a great friend. He's also a great mentor. And we just did a podcast episode a couple days ago, and he told this story about finally discovering his true purpose and his own worth and value. And I can remember saying, I am there now. Like, I don't have anything unfinished, undone. Genuinely can. Now, I don't look forward to dying, but I accept it. I don't have anything unfinished. I don't have anyone unloved in my life. I don't have any unspoken words that I'm aware of. Nothing substantial anyway. I've made peace with everything around me, but I know my worth. So I don't fear, like, there's no question about it. I've reinvented myself substantially 7 times. And like I don't fear it any longer, and I don't question my value. Like, I know how to walk into any environment, and I can sit down, and I do, with substantial celebrities and CEOs and multi-billionaires, and I do not in the least bit feel insecure about who I am or feel as though I can't hold my own. And I think that you either evolve into it. I think in some cases you never get there. And I'm not saying I'm at some distance. Like, my wife is a highly evolved soul. A psychic told her not too long ago, this is her last time around. So if you have any sense
Wow.
of like, and my immediate reaction to that was I burst out in tears, and I'm like, I'm going to miss you so much because I'm not done. Um, I can't imagine an everlasting life without my wife's soul energy around me. And like, now that could be a goofy ass hallucination, but I feel empowered living inside of that.
There's the benefit of age with some of this, and I hear you completely on You're at this point in life. You don't really care. I heard you in one of your books say you really don't care what other people think. You've sort of gotten
Yeah.
to the place where you're not looking forward to, but you accept death. I just listened to Tucker Carlson on a podcast you like, Lex Friedman, and he made
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
point about, I don't fear death anymore. My kids are grown. Mine are young, 9 and 6. Yours,
Yeah.
Zach, I think,
Yeah.
is at Colorado. He's grown. Is
21.
that a
Yeah.
component as well of accepting death or accepting or feeling like, so yes, as a man, you're evolving the Saturn, I can't ever remember the words, but the Saturn thing that you talked about, is
Saturn phase.
parenthood
Yeah.
and getting your kids across that proverbial finish line a component in accepting death?
Yeah. Well, mine happened a little bit early with the cancer thing. So I'll just
Yeah.
say, fortunate or unfortunately, that was um, a different type of experience and realization. So the direct answer though, is a big yes. Like, I do feel as though now I wouldn't be abandoning or leaving him behind, or put him in a phase where he didn't have what I'd say proper masculine
Yeah.
energy to get to the. I genuinely believe, like, call me old school, but I think there's massive evidence, and anyone who doesn't observe this and recognize it, acknowledge it, and accept it as a hard level of truth, is having masculine and feminine energy in a child's life that is balanced with two loving people. Anyone who doesn't accept that is a moron, okay, and an abject moron. And so, and I think it is very, very, very important to have that balanced energy to create a full individual. And the only reason that conversation has entered is because of a failure on society. And somehow we're going to make it okay to be 400 pounds and say you're healthy. It's the same kind of BS. All right. So for the record, I'll die on that stump unless someone proves me otherwise. And I'd challenge anyone to give me evidence against.
Here, here.
you know,
And I'm sure there's people giving a standing ovation in their cars right now.
yeah.
I completely
Don't
agree with
make it
every
okay
word.
to be a big fat slob and call it something it isn't. It's an addiction. So, stupid can't be fixed. This is one of those stupid should be fixed kind of scenarios. So,
I
boy,
love
I
that.
sound like an angry old man, but I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks.
That's it. And I think every
Yeah.
word you said resonates with most people. The loud minority,
Yeah.
unfortunately, makes it taboo or risk cancel or whatever. But I feel like, and this is a
Yeah.
completely different topic, I feel like we've reached or we're reaching a tipping point with that in our
Yeah.
society a little bit.
It'll be
So
bred out of humanity eventually. So,
that's true.
yeah,
That's true.
stupid
Well,
eventually dies of real stupid things. So, and nature just has a funny way of fixing itself. So I'm a patient man, and I don't care where I'm observing, whether I'm in physical form or not. I think it's an observable fact.
well, it
So
actually it is from a standpoint of birth rate as well. This is again, we're getting down a rabbit hole. I'll climb us out of it here in a
yeah,
second. But
no,
birth
woo, let's
birth
climb
rate
out, climb out.
but birth rate right now amongst particularly, and this isn't about a political thing, but this is just an interesting stat.
No,
White liberals is very low. They have kids later, or they can't have kids because they wait too long, and
mhm,
they have very few. Conservative
yeah,
Christians have 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. So there's articles posted about the birth rate advantage to the conservative
mhm.
Christian. Again, I'm not talking Republican Democrat. I'm simply saying
No, I get it.
those with
I get
more
it.
of those traits that would align with what you said, a masculine and a feminine energy, manhood is a good thing, not toxic, and so on and so forth, tend to be
Yeah,
your
yeah.
more conservative Christian.
Right. Yeah. Don't be an a-hole. Don't be a jackass, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, yeah, just be this is not hard. Again, I think we've got a mass hallucination of delusion
Yeah.
that, anytime you get the state involved in anything, it turns to shit fast. Okay. And this is a state sponsored stupidity at its finest, and it creates delusional moronicity in epic proportions. And look, you know, and again, I'm not speaking on a political level, because I
No.
married my wife, her parents are Holocaust survivors. Her mother
Wow.
was a New York City special needs teacher who came to the States with nothing, got herself two um, degrees, put herself through school. She never had any education. And you know, she grew up in 110th in Amsterdam in Manhattan in a slum. And if you would have met her 25 years ago when I did, you'd say, holy cow, this is a very liberal Jewish woman. And her mom would be, you know, a self-described socialist. And that has nothing to do with intelligence or values. You know, politics have nothing to do one or the over the other. You know, again, I won't get incendiary right now about my political beliefs. I don't vote for either side because there's too much stupid in both of them. But that doesn't make me any better. I'm not saying anything like that. I just think that sometimes facts are facts and truth is truth, and hallucinations and delusions are both. But anyway, I sound like a political rambling idiot right now. I
Not at all.
apologize.
Not at all. Here, I'll cap it, and then we'll get back to identity because I have a question on
Sure.
that. But I'll cap it with
Right
this.
on.
I mentioned to you that I moved to the Dominican Republic, which most consider to be a third world developing nation, if you will.
It's
We moved
beautiful.
here for a year. That was the objective: get our kids exposed to language, get our kids exposed to culture. You know, my wife's side
Right
of
on.
things, especially. But we've stayed. We stayed past that year, and many do because we've actually found increased safety here. We found a return to cultural values here. Safety is
Yeah.
even as much as like the idea of a school or mass shooting here is sacrilege. Family values are still very, people value one another. Community
Mhm.
is valued. And even our kids, everybody at our age or older says this, like, man, when I was a kid, I'd disappear at 8 o'clock and come back at night. That happens here. Our kids disappear
Yeah.
and they come back when they come back. So it is interesting to see where we are culturally. But anyway,
Yeah.
you are a framework guy going back to identity. So I'd love
Mhm.
to, for the benefit of the audience, when you go through this identity challenge that you went through, it sounds like what you do is kind of go back and extract lessons from it. So is there a framework or a system someone can use if they're struggling with identity?
Wow. First, no one's ever asked me that question before. It's really interesting. I think I just posted something. I'm not a so I happen to like Reddit because it's entertaining. And there was a post on there that, you know, a lot of the stuff on there, basically they're a bunch of whiny, complainy um uh boys who
Bitches?
haven't gone through their proper Saturn phase. Like it's like, and I someone said something about I'm so depressed and so blah blah blah, you know, basically capitalism sucks and you know, what should I do or something like that. And I said, actually there's 6 things you can do. And I'm going to do my best right now to give you what I posted, but also the framework. And if I can find the post I did, but the net was I effectively said something like number one, you got to learn how to create value and you got to
Mm,
find out how to be valuable. And that comes from listening and adding to your capabilities and learning new skills. Okay. Now, that's stupid obvious, but I think in the context of a framework for reinventing yourself, it comes down to learning how to be valuable. And I think being an entrepreneur is one of the best ways ever to become valuable because the market isn't kind to those who don't create value. If people don't buy your stuff, it's because your packaging, positioning, and messaging sucks. Okay. You can't describe value. And that is a hard skill to learn. Now, the next thing that's really important along that is find an audience to serve. Okay. If you're miserable and you're going through a phase, it's because you've outserved the audience you're serving or you're not creating value.
mm,
And I, so I'll go down a rabbit hole in a bit and I'll talk about becoming those who serve the broken soon wind up broken too. Okay. And anytime someone says, yeah, what do you want to do in order to feel good and happy? Well, I need to help 1 million people. And I'm like, you can't even help yourself. Okay. You're screwed. So you got to fix you first and then fix one person, help one person, and then 10. And you know how hard it is to get 100 customers? It's hard. 1,000, really hard. 10,000, statistically improbable. So, so serve someone, providing value. And how do you do that? Well, you become a great storyteller and therefore learn to sell. So the first skill you should work on, and you can get it all. You can learn anything you want for free on YouTube. And anyone who says, I can't make enough money or I can't whatever, I guarantee you they're wasting their time on social media. That's for fools and morons and time-wasting turds who don't value their time. So start by valuing your time at $500 per hour and don't do anything that's worth less than that. And that is a great filter. It will stop your TikTok and your Instagram addiction, or you just treat your addiction, which is an addiction. Okay. And I think we're all addicts on some level, except that truth. And that took me a long time to come to terms with, because I'd be like, no. You know, it's like, nah, I guarantee you are. You got addictive behavior somewhere where you retreat when you want to change your state, whether it's chemical or behavioral. We all do it. Animals do it, and it's okay to be an animal. And so that's kind of the framework. I mean, it's harsh, but I think harsh facts and realities and creating hard borders help with that. And the next thing that makes a big difference in your reinvention is to have hard yeses, hard nos, and no mushy metals. So I have a rule.
How do you define a hard yes and a hard no?
Yeah. So here's what it is. This is a Gay Hendrixism. He does this beautiful thing, and God, I respect and admire him so much for being able to do this. He pays attention to his body. So if anything comes in, he goes, and he hums into his decision. And if his body says no, it's a hard no.
Wow.
Hey, would you like to get together tonight? Nope. Yeah. Can you help me with this? Nope. It's okay to say no and protect your time and your soul and your energy. And if you don't do that, you will be screwed. Live in the hard yes and the hard no's as long as you can, as often as you can, and you'll be a happier person. And the sooner you quit squishing yourself through gravel and grates and spiny, spiky things, you will be a happier person. And aggravating situations and people and a-holes are all of that. You've got to completely eliminate all that mushy middle. Living a world of compromise makes for misery, and it will not help you elevate and get to the next stage in your evolution. So live in the feeling into your body. Listen to that thing, that your body knows better than your brain does.
I love that. I want to ask this question. There was two different. Well, let me ask the question. You talked about leaning into or learning how to create value, and and part of that framework is learning how to sell. Learning how to create value or serving one person. I would say, this is me. Yet when you do that, if you're overly tactical, it doesn't really work. So have no expectation of a return. Is that the right mindset, or is that the mindset that makes me a terrible receiver?
Boy, God, that's a big one. I'm going to read this. I'm running Otter in the background so I can read this. That's how I stay attention. So that's the question. You talked about leading into or learning how to create value. And part of that framework is learning how to sell, learning how to create value. We're serving one person. Say as me. When you do that, if you're overly tactical, it doesn't really work. So you have no expectation of a return. Is that the right mindset? Or is that the mindset that makes me a terrible receiver? So what confused me is I don't think one is the other. First of all, I don't see them as being connected.
I love
being
that.
a receiver is very, very different than creating value. Now, here's what I do think. When you are economically disadvantaged, again, if you work with the broken, soon you will be broken too. So I just got a lead into one of my systems the other day, and it's this woman who I could tell by her picture is broken. Okay. I know that sounds like a judgment, but that's what animals do. And her idea was, I want to help people on welfare learn AI. Okay. Now that's a nice thing to do if you're taking care of yourself, but it is a terrible business. Now, I think charity is very important. I think you should do as much as possible. If you are completely economically disadvantaged and screwed, it's a horrible idea. Do it with tithe it. Tithing is 10 or 15%. That's how much time you should give to charitable things that you're not being rewarded for, that take care of your body and you, because otherwise you are screwed. Now, again, if someone is taking issue with what I'm saying, you're not paying attention to what my intent is, it doesn't mean anything about not giving back. It has nothing to do with that at all. I give a lot, but at some point, if you could do what you're best at, do what you're meant to do what your soul loves you to do, and you've said no to the wrong things and yes to the right things, and if you could earn $10 million and give away 99% of that, you are doing a better service than earning nothing and doing something that is low value for an audience on the street. Okay, it's one of the reasons why I won't hand money over to a drug abuser on the street who's standing in the middle of traffic. Okay, that is a bad investment. It encourages terrible behavior. Okay, trying to save that situation. I'm not saying it's good, or it's just like, it's terrible. Okay, you're better off giving money to someone who's in the business of working with addicts and getting them off the street and housing them and sheltering them and helping them do something. And there are specialists at that who are really good at it. All right. So I think you learn to receive when you are being true to yourself. And selfish does not mean you don't give back and are not charitable. Society has a responsibility to take care of, but big state is evil and bad. It leads to tyranny. It steals money and it steals souls, and it creates power where it does not belong. Bureaucracy, evil. So I'm over answering the question, but inside of this, I think understanding why billionaires are billionaires, it's not because they're evil, selfish people who are stealing. It's because they know how to create value on a massive level. I'm not talking about kings and politicians who steal for a living through taxation. Taxation, bad. It's necessary, it bad. Especially because states can put you in jail and kill you for not paying up. Politicians, bad.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Very interesting. I'm glad you answered it that way. Receiving is different from creating value. I really appreciate you making that delineation. One of the things that you've created a lot of value around recently, and you've even written a book on it, the AI Accelerator is the book. AI Accelerator: How to 10x your productivity, clone your smartest employees, and monetize your IP in the new AI economy. And I've heard you go very deep, very tactical on how to leverage AI, chat bots, all of this, different plugins for Chat GPT and so on. What is it? When did you start to really embrace AI, and why do you believe in it as much as you do?
Two-part answer.
Yeah.
The short one is because it's an imagination multiplier. It's a capability amplifier. It is, my wife described it. She says, the first time I've seen you so excited because you finally have a tool that can keep up with your imagination.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Okay. And I man, that made me cry when I heard it. I got super emotional. I'm like, God, baby. Oh, you get me. And like, you know, if you think about it, if you live in a world of lack or scarcity in your mindsets, you can invent, create, make, manifest almost anything with this amazing tool when you learn how to communicate with it. And what you learn really fast is that the only thing limiting you is your ability to articulate what's going on inside your imagination and to make it real. Oh, oh my God. I just like really sank into that and like, okay, all right, that's cool. So where this came from is as a kid, my life truly changed the day I sat down and I touched a computer. It was a TRS-80 Model 1 at a Radio Shack in 1977. So I was, 11 years old, and I did this lunar lander thing. And before that, I had touched a couple video games, right? So I grew up in the arcades playing pinball and early arcade games, and then I eventually was inspired to become a coder, and I wrote video games and started a digital marketing agency. So I was exposed to AI and folks like Marvin Minsky, who are some of the earliest creators of the concept of AI. But until ChatGPT came out, AI was in things, but it wasn't accessible to us. There wasn't an interface like a chat interface, which is such a beautifully, wonderfully simple thing that lets you have a conversation with this evolving child God brain. And so I think what happened was I was playing with it, and I had the great fortune of, so I've known Peter Diamandis for 12 years, and I've been in strategic coach for around the same. Dan and I do a podcast called Capability Amplifier. And I had talked about AI and I experimented. I showed Dan some stuff, and he was pretty blown away because I created a synthetic Dan voice and a synthetic thing with some of the earlier versions right when ChatGPT came out. All right. So November, December of last year. And Peter Diamandis reached out to Dan Sullivan. Peter's been his coach for a long time. And he said, who is doing business stuff with AI? I need someone to speak at Abundance 360 this year and teach my patrons AI. Now, Abundance 360, if you don't know Peter, he's the author of Abundance Bold. A360 is this great futurist event. It starts as of right now when we're recording this coming weekend. So I'm about to go there. And he reached out to me. He said, hey, I really want to collaborate with you. What are you doing with AI? I told him, and it turned out I was going up to LA the next day anyway. I was meeting with Dave Asprey. And I said, I'm going to be up there. You want to meet? I can carve out some time. He says, yeah, great. So we met in Santa Monica. I sat down. I showed him what I was teaching. And on the spot, he said, I want you to speak at A360. Now, that's a great honor because this is his creme de la creme. His patrons invest a lot to be with him. They're also investors in his Bold Fund. And I spoke. That meant I had to bust my ass and put together my best of the best of the best and not make a jackass of him or me. When reputations are on the line, you work your ass off. So I worked my ass off. And then someone there saw me speak and said, hey, will you speak at this? So it just started to fall and into place. And then, Tony Robbins reached out and said, will you speak at he calls them his Lions, Platinum Lions, which are his highest end group at his
Platts.
home.
The Platts. Yeah.
And so then, from one thing led to another. So basically, here's what really happened. What pushed me, and the reason I went into the story real long to answer it is because my identity is at stake every time I speak, and I act as though I have to re-earn the respect and blow that audience away. So I am on my A game and writing and rewriting. Like tomorrow morning, I am speaking for someone I deeply love, JJ Virgin. I'm teaching a bunch of doctors how to use AI. And I haven't even started writing my presentation yet. Like I'm scared out of my wits. I cannot screw up. JJ hates it when I talk too much or I get into too much detail. It's got to be fast and step by step. And like I talk too much. I know that, right? But I love the fact that I got to put my ass on the line and I can change the way someone perceives their own value, who they are, the value they can create and multiply their effectiveness and who they are at their core. It's like it's making us little gods in a way, in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah. The interesting thing on AI, and I want to get into brands or different businesses that you feel AI is most applicable to, or maybe it's all of them. But you're right now. You mentioned recording this through Otter. What's I don't think that's just because you think it's cool. What's the tactic behind that? What's the thought
Oh yeah.
process behind using that?
Yeah. So the framework is this. So ARE, always record everything. And so here's what I believe to be true. Our ears hallucinate, our eyes hallucinate, our brain hallucinates, and you can't trust what you perceive to be true. That's a hallucination. But if you can look at what someone is saying and read it, you can double your comprehension and learn how to become a better listener and a better human being. And after all we are is we're exchanging hallucinations, and we're amplifying them. That's why people who believe the same thing in the same place, you want to be having a spirited conversation with someone who disagrees with you. And like, just because I said all the things that I think are true doesn't mean I'm right. Okay. And it doesn't mean I'll believe the same thing tomorrow if someone with greater evidence and more in a more articulate way can say, you know what, you're so wrong.
That's a
And
good
here's
point.
why. Be like,
Yeah.
that's a damn good point. So what I always do is whenever I speak to someone now, every meeting, I record them and I'm reading what I think I'm hearing. And I'm paying attention to both. Usually, every meeting I have, I ask for permission. Is it okay if I record this? I'll share it with you in real time. I take really detailed notes. So I'm listening, I'm watching, and I'm articulating what I believe. And I'm saying, okay, I believe you just said this. Did I get this right? And they'll be like, yes, but you just reminded me I'm going to add this too.
Mm.
So now, like the way I write my books, is I create a character that I perform for, and I actually record me speaking on video and audio, and it's being captured. So I capture the voice. I'm speaking and serving an individual, and I only have to do it once. And then I have AI. I've trained an AI to write like me and recommunicate and rewrite my stuff. And I'll actually send the same information to 4 different AIs and see which one is best. It's like
Mm.
having 4 smart consultants, but my voice is intact. The intent may or may not be captured. And in the process, I believe I've become a significantly better communicator, listener, understander, and evaluator because of this new magnificent tool. So again, I probably over answered your question, but
No, it's great.
I found you're so much more effective when you combine all these.
So a quick, maybe informational question, and then I want to go into your ability to condense 20 to 40 hours worth of content into an hour, which I thought was
Mm,
fascinating. But before that,
mm.
you mentioned 4 AIs. Everyone knows ChatGPT. Some are getting familiar, me included, with Google Gemini, I think it is now. What are the four
Yeah,
AIs that you're using, if I could ask that you plug this
sure.
stuff into?
So I have a tool and it's called Chat Hub. Okay. And it's a plugin. And with it, um, give me 1 second. I'm trying to bring it up on my computer right now, but basically it's a plugin for Chrome. And what it lets you do is open up um, a whole bunch of windows with multiple. It's like a whole bunch of different clients. And
Oh, interesting.
I'm trying to bring it up on my. I
I,
can't share my screen right now.
I
This is
wish
one
this
of those.
platform would allow it. We have to upgrade
Yeah.
our platform because, yeah.
But what I'll take a snapshot so you have it. But what it effectively does is I've got ChatGPT 3.5, Gemini, Claude, Bing, Perplexity, and Llama 2
Wow.
running simultaneously. Okay. So, and I'm looking at these in the background. So, what's freaking amazing is Claude 3 is this incredibly powerful tool. And what I can do, so I'm going to just tell you what I'm doing in the background. So I'm selecting all of our chat conversation that we've had so far in this entire interview. Okay. And I'm going to paste it into Chat Hub and I'm going to say, I want you to summarize everything we've discussed so far in this interview between Jamie Gruber, the host, and Mike Koenigs, that's me. Give me a list of all the questions that have been asked so far and include a quick summary of the responses Mike has given and made. All right. So I just spoke that. I pasted in all this content. I put send in here, and ChatGPT is summarizing it. Claude 3 is working on it. Llama 2 is working on it. Perplexity came back with something really short. Gemini failed. It basically is too big, and Bing, it was too big for it. So it puked. Too many tokens used. All right. And ChatGPT and Claude are producing the best results right now. Perplexity basically said the discussion between Jamie Gruber and Mike Koenigs covers topics such as Mike's journey through a professional identity crisis, his book, AI Accelerator for Entrepreneurs, and the concept of a midlife crash challenge. Mike shares his personal story of experiencing a crisis at the age of 51, where he felt trapped in his business and experienced significantly financial losses, blah, blah, blah. So, and it also grabbed the Saturn phase. So here's what's great about it. Back to, what do I use this for? While I'm talking to people in real time, when I'm working, from what I do now, I build brands in a week with people. We create entire companies and products. I can talk to people, gather data, and then have, in this case, 6 different consultants in the form of ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Bing, Perplexity, Llama, giving me their own evaluations, because every AI is a different language model. It's been trained with different data. It has different rules. So why not have 6 genius experts at your fingertips at all times?
That's insane. That's insane. So what I'm thinking about here with brands, and maybe this is something relevant for me in this moment right now. If that's the capability, and I know there are bots that can transcribe YouTube or audio or whatever it might be. When you're building brands, is the podcast still a usable do podcasts become obsolete, as an example, because AI can just simply give you a 3-sentence summary of the hour-long piece of media that gets no reach whatsoever? Are podcasts becoming obsolete, and/or is there a pivot on podcasts that people like me need to think about?
Yeah, that's another good question. Okay, so I still believe podcasts are the most effective long format. Okay. I love long format, and podcasts are awesome. So here's what I know to be true. I've been doing 2 podcasts, both with really high value people. Like one of the best things in my life and one of the worst things at the same time are the fact that I do podcasts with 2 old men. One's 80. Okay. That's Dan Sullivan turns 80 in May. And then Gay Hendricks, who's 79 right now. Okay. And I'm terrified of losing them. Like, I lost my dad this past year, and like, he was my greatest mentor. And what I know to be true is if someone's listened to 2 of my podcasts, they feel like they know me and they have a high probability of wanting to work with me. Okay. But you've got to be able to engage someone and captivate them long enough. And look, I know I'm not for all people. Like, I am as of now, I'm an old white guy. Okay. There's a lot of us. And it's like, who cares about what this old white guy has to say? Like, my son is 21. He likes me fine, but I do not resonate with his audience, and vice versa. Okay. So I've got a limited shelf life. I get it. And there's a bajillion podcasts. Most of them suck and are boring. And the hosts are terrible. They ask bad questions. There's nothing interesting or exciting about them, and they don't know how to entertain. Okay. So if you're going to have a successful podcast, you better be a great entertainer. And statistically speaking, when you look at the data, you should have very strong opinions and not be afraid to offend 89% of your audience or more. Being hated is effective.
Yeah.
But most people can't live with that energy around them. I don't like it. I don't like being hated. I don't think I got a lot of hate, but maybe. So it's a complex answer, but the short answer is podcasts are awesome as long as you're willing to work at it. And it is very hard. You got to be willing to put in 18 months to build an audience.
Sure.
And, listens don't mean a lot. Like the data lies, and these platforms lie, they steal. you can't trust any of them because a lot of them make money by puffing up their numbers so they get advertising dollars. So, you just got to know that up front. So the only thing that matters is how much real engagement you're getting by real humans, not bots. And that takes some work. And to create attribution links, to build a list and then engage that list and actually sell something. That's why social media is a big, stupid, fake waste of time in general. Not
Mm.
all, but most.
Is it not? So go back to AI for a second. On the AI
Yes.
side, when you talk about podcasts still being a great medium and so on, when you're talking about AI for businesses, your business is to help people, in essence, build brands, right? So is it as simple as great prompt engineering will
Mm.
allow you to copy paste the outputs so that you can engage your audience? Or will there always be a need, or is there currently still a need for human intervention and human
Mhm.
manipulation of whatever the output is, despite how great prompt engineering might be?
Yeah. So yes, there's a need for a human. And there are elements where it's getting less and less. So let me give you two mini journeys. One is I just did a podcast with Gay Hendricks 48 hours ago. And I had shown him a couple of things during a episode, and he was really intrigued with it. And I said, hey, Gay, let's do the Big Leap, the movie. So we'll get together for an episode and I'll actually write a movie script with you about you. We're going to create images. I'll create videos and we'll even create music, 100% synthetic. And he's like, oh, that would be great. So that's what we did. We got together and I opened up my order.ai window. So I'm grabbing all the text and I said, what do you want this to be about? And he basically did his origin story. He's got a great origin story about his moment when he was like 300 pounds and a chain smoker, miserable, and he slipped on his back, bumped his head, and had the aha moment. And he made a commitment to himself from that moment on. Like that was kind of and so I took that origin story, pasted it in. I said, now rewrite this as a movie script in the voice of Gay Hendricks and, a couple other little details. And boom, it came out and it was good. And Claude, which is right now, it writes better than Chat GPT. I said, write it in first person in the voice of Gay Hendricks. Boop. Then it did it. And I said, now write an 8-line song. Now create a scene by scene description that I can feed into Midjourney, which is an image generator for each of these things. So I pasted that in. And then I created some videos using a tool called Runway ML. And he was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I said, this is your first draft partner. Like, think about how long it would take to do this. And just days before, a good friend of mine was over who's got 2 big movies in production. He's doing 2 significant Hollywood productions. And he's been doing it old school. And I sat down with them and we basically wrote the equivalent of his script in about a half an hour and did storyboards. And I did some videos with him. And he was like, oh my God. He goes, I'm obsolete. And I go, no, you're not. Because you know what's good.
Yeah.
Now, soon there will be agent technology that will be the equivalent of an editor that can take on the behaviors and the mindsets and the knowledge. But again, I look at this as an imagination amplifier. This is not, don't think of it as something that replaces you. What if you could be 100 times smarter or 1,000 times more effective than you are right now? Think about the level of wealth creation that's going to take place. This is why my book is about creating trillionaires, the trillionaire economy, because we are going to have trillionaires amongst us who take advantage of this quickly, like in a few years, 3 to 5 years.
It's great. I think you did a cartoon version with Peter Diamandis, if I'm not mistaken, as well, using this. How
Yeah.
long did it take you to do that with Gay Hendricks, the entire thing? How many hours or minutes or whatever was that whole process?
It was an hour-long podcast, 100% improv.
Okay.
So getting back to your original question.
Wait, I'm sorry. This whole thing happened within the hour-long podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
And
wow.
I did it back to back. So that's that. By the time this is out, that'll be out. And so back to your original question. Well, can you just do this with a bunch of prompts? No, it's sort of like here's the reason why I can create a business in a week with AI is because I've created and launched. I've done about 100 in the past 6 years. I've created and launched about 100 new businesses, and I've done a lot for myself. Created well over hundreds of products at this point in my career. I'm good at it, and I don't think it's I ain't bragging if it's true. And more importantly, what I can do is I can really listen to and find the core essence of someone. Like if you and I sat down, I can tell energetically, like we'd vibe and we could sit down. I'd say, Jamie, if you could live 99% of your time in your greatest superpower and not worry about anything, what would that be? Who would it be for? And we could invent and go back and forth. And I'd be your AI engineer for a day, your dream amplifier. We could build and create something. That's kind of what the experience is. And, that is our core product, but the AI just makes me better at it, but I know what to say and how to say it because I've practiced it and I've been under pressure. It's like, how do you become a great performer? Well, you get on the road and you perform for 10,000 hours. The Beatles weren't great until they put in their 10,000 hours performing 7 days a week, 9 or 10 hours a day for years.
Yeah.
Right.
You've said pressure creates creativity, or compression creates creativity. Something I think you talked about a 3-day competition. Yeah. 3-day meditation journey you went on in advance of an event that you were going to host. And then you had to like fill the event with days left to go. So like you put yourself in that situation to finish it up or whatever. But I want to get a little bit more granular because I'm sorry, my brain is going like really fast and I may have missed details and I apologize if it's redundant.
No, that's fine.
You said hundreds of products. Can you define that? What does that mean? Info products, books, tractors, lawn vehicles, cameras? What does that mean, hundreds of products?
Okay, so I'll give you some real life case studies, sort of rapid fire. So my first real product that I made all by myself. So I wrote video games and I used to create products for a couple programming companies I work for.
Yeah.
And then when my first real company, Digital Cafe, we created a product called Chex Quest. It's still alive to this day. It was a branded video game that shipped on 6 million CD-ROMs in General Mills Chex cereal. You can look it up. It's on Steam to this day because my old team actually got together and brought it back to the market. And General Mills got behind it. So it was like a cult game, sort of like what Doom is. And then we created a whole bunch of little products like CD-ROM games. And then later on that turned into like web products, like promotional products for like Sony and 20th Century Fox movie promos. But then my first real product that I sold direct, that was an info product, was called Everything You Should Know About Publishing, Publicity, Promotion, and Building a Platform. I did it with a woman named Arielle Ford. She represented 10 of the biggest New York Times bestselling authors like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, etc.
This is a book, like, an ebook, a course. What?
It was a course that sold for $500 and later on $1,000. So it was like at the time 8 or 10 audio CDs, some videos, and then a manual just filled with like how to do publicity and how to write books and how to get attention and all that. Well, then I created a product called the Internet Infomercial Toolkit. So pre-YouTube, how to create videos to sell stuff online. So it's literally making internet infomercials. And then we created software like a scriptwriter. And then I created Traffic Geyser, then Instant Customer, then dozens of information products, basically how to make money online. And then I made products for other people. People would come in and hire me. And I probably have created, I've written 3 books. I don't count books as products necessarily, but I probably could. Sure. Actually just finished my 19th, the AI for AI Accelerators, my 19th book. And I've written a lot of books for other people. And then if you would count books that were produced through my businesses, there's almost 2,000. I don't count those.
Sure.
But I mean, theoretically, I guess they could count as products. I didn't do all the work, but we definitely produced them. And then I've produced television shows, a movie, a couple documentaries.
Lots of
Um,
products. Lots of products.
yeah,
I love that. Here's a question then on as far as you said earlier, social media is a waste of time unless it's used correctly. So in that
yeah,
vein, because you talk about like you had video technology or how to use video before YouTube and so on. How does one
yeah,
use social media correctly from your perspective?
yeah. So I'm going to answer two questions at the same time because you said, how do you digest, 30 hours of content in 30 minutes?
That was
So
my next follow-up, 20 to 40 hours
yeah,
in 1 hour. That was good. I was gonna go
we're
back
going
to
to
that.
do both. I
Okay.
like I like killing a couple birds with one stone. Pardon the expression. Um, so YouTube is the most effective social media channel because it has long form content, and in order to get ratings and reviews. Now, again, I think there's like scumbag influencers who create a bunch of sensationalist crap for idiots. Okay, so that falls in my TikTok, Instagram, self-indulgent, narcissistic, psychopathic behavior. Me. Big lip Kardashians. To me, it's a waste of skin. Now, having said that, but they're a lot richer than me. So if you're judging me versus them on the basis of that, well, then you won. Okay. But I'm talking about value creation. And like I said, I'm not saying I'm good or the best at anything. It's my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everyone's got a rear end, right?
No
This is
qualifiers
just
needed.
it's my rear end. So having said that, so one of the things that I do every day is I think of like, what do I need to learn or understand that will make me more effective and more valuable? So for example, I'm speaking tomorrow for JJ Virgin. I have to teach a bunch of doctors how to rapidly create content, landing pages, follow up sequences, and sell their products or services and differentiate themselves. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that, but I have to package it in a way that can be understood and followed step by step in an hour. And I have to assume that I'm going to have a half blind 75-year-old on there who's not technically proficient. So it's got to be easy for them and easy for someone who's stuck in their business. So, how the hell am I going to do that? Right. So, what I do is whenever I've got a problem I need to solve, I go to YouTube and I search for whatever that problem is or the outcome I want. And I find the most viewed, most recent, longest form videos that I just sift through them. And I can tell at a glance now if like I see a sensationalist thumbnail of someone going, I know they're probably an idiot. Okay. So I'm not going to pay attention to stupid stuff. So I have my own filter on, what I consider to be like yuck, but I'll also look at the comments. And I built a prompt that I'll give to you so you can put it in the notes. It's
Notes,
also
yeah.
a video I made, which is my name, MikeKoenigs.com/3030. So it's how to consume 30 hours of content in 30 minutes. So this prompt will grab the transcript of that video and then turn it into a SOP or standard operating procedure, and then write an email for an EA or an assistant on how to do that thing. But what I'll do is I'll turn videos into ChatGPT instruction prompts that'll do that thing for me. So what I did to get prepared for this thing tomorrow, well, I started anyway. I did it for something else and I realized, oh, this is going to solve part of my problem. I built a prompt that writes like me in the voice of me, and it can take any content and turn it around, but I can adapt it for anyone in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
So I'm going to give that away.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, how do you consume a lot of content in a short period of time? It's use ChatGPT to summarize it for you and turn it into little instruction manuals that can become little automated bots to do it all for you, so you don't even need to do it anymore.
That's crazy.
And I've trained an AI to watch the video for me and do it all. Okay. And then, so that's how do you consume it? But going back to where's the best content, you can get better than a PhD, a usable, useful skill set of capabilities by rapidly consuming YouTube with an outcome in mind versus being a bumble F, rhymes with truck, starts with an F, and stumbling around on TikTok or Instagram and waiting for an evil algorithm that is not serving you. Okay. What it is doing is it does what Fox News and CNN does, which it keeps stupid morons glued to a TV to consume advertising content. They are not serving you. Meta doesn't serve you. X doesn't serve you. Instagram and TikTok, I think, are evil. Evil wastes of time for people who don't value their time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Wow,
let an
man.
algorithm rule your life. You have to let your brain rule your life based upon creating value that makes you a better version of you.
I love the idea of compression with AI, and
Yeah.
I've started to listen to a lot of your stuff, and I'm starting to implement some of it. So
Mm.
incredible. I want to be respectful of time here. I know we got a few minutes, but I'm going to ask you this question. I think I'm going to screw it up, but it's a Dan
Now we're
Sullivan
good, brother.
question you've asked,
Yeah.
so you might have to even finish the question for me. But it's March
Mhm.
15th as we record, 2024. If
Yeah.
we met 1 year from today, March 15th, 2025, what would
Mhm.
have had to have happened in your life in the next year for us to have a great meeting in a year? Or you know the right way to ask that question, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get the point.
Yeah, the way the Dan Sullivan question goes, what will have happened personally and professionally for you to be happy with your results?
There you go.
And yeah, I don't get to answer this very often. I ask it of other people all the
I
time.
know.
But
I wanted to know your
there's
answer
a
for that reason.
yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to break the answer a little by saying have to happen. So I'll be thrilled, excited if what I'm about to say comes true. And right now it's in the process of coming true. Um, the first of which is my son has been struggling in a lot of ways. And for him to be a happy, well adjusted young man, getting past his Peter Pan cycle. So a happy, well adjusted young man who is on his own and found his path that he's had to fight for himself is the first one. And that's is I can't be more specific than that because I don't know what his path is and
I
it's
get that.
not mine to own, but for him to be happy. The second is I am going on my 23rd year of marriage right now, and I'm more in love and happier now in my marriage than I've ever been. I'm a better husband and man to my wife, and we are closer and more communicative. Like we just work it out and we give each other grace. So I'm so grateful. So if I can just have a little bit more of that, squeeze out another minute, another hour, another day, because I get to take her out on a date tonight and tomorrow. And that's just so joyful.
Hmm.
Um, Another is we are building a home in Malaga, Spain right now, and it will be completed in March of next year.
There you
And
go.
so I cannot wait. It's a 3-bedroom penthouse, and Malaga is one of the most delightfully delicious places on the planet. And 2 of my team members live there, so I get to spend time with people I care about and love, and get to collaborate with, and to do that in this wonderful European Spanish culture that we love so much. Um, the next is we're also building a community and a home. We own 3.5 acres in Pescadero, Mexico, next to Chip Conley's MEA, Modern Elder Academy. Again, we have a love affair with Latin America now, and we're going to be living there next year during November, December, January during the erection cycle. I, our election cycle right now is so rotten. Should probably beep that out. It sounded mildly not what I intended. I meant to make
Then you said
I
beep
meant
that
to make
out.
a joke.
Yeah.
You could just make that not be the way I think it came out. Um, but I wish to not be here during that time, and we're going to be in this wonderful place. And by the way, Dia de los Muertes, I hope I said that right,
Dia de los
is
Muertos. Muertes, yeah.
yeah, Muertos, yeah, Muertes or
Muertes,
Mortis?
you said it right.
Muertes, thank
I
you.
always get the
Dia
OE
de los
thing. Dia de los
Muertes.
Muertes. Yes.
Oh my God, that's the best time ever. I love how the Mexican culture celebrates Day of the Dead. It is exquisitely delightful how they celebrate their past. The Ghosts Alive. It's like that movie.
Yeah.
What was that little
I
beautiful
know.
movie?
It's a
And
Disney movie, I think, or an animated movie.
yeah, so good. Encarto or something like that.
Encanto?
Yeah, Encanto.
Was
Oh
that the
my
one?
God.
I thought it was a
I
different one,
think
but
so.
okay.
Just a second. Yeah, Disney movie about Day of the Dead. There you go. Coco.
Coco. That's it.
Yeah,
Encanto was a
Coco.
different Latin
Yeah,
American-based movie, but Coco is the one. Yes.
that's the one. Oh, it's so good. Massively beautiful place. So to be in that place again, and we're going to be living out of the US. I love the United States. I still think it's the best idea
Same.
ever for a country. It's just got some deep flaws that I care not to expend my energy in or on at the moment. That well, I believe it will cure itself. It'll rid itself of some of its internal diseases before long. It just needs to take a big dump.
It's
So uh then the last is I've been working on this AI platform, a software product that I think revolutionizes the process of marketing and sales. And it's my next traffic geyser instant customer. I've been thinking about and dreaming this platform for over 20 years, and I could finally make it real because AI made it possible. And I
mm,
have a team that's exquisite, just delightful human beings. I've got a lead in Germany, another group in Poland. I love the fact that we're an international company now and we're multicultural, and it's just so beautiful. So my goal is to create some incredible wealth for my team with this tool by um, licensing and selling it. And I really want to share and spread the wealth and create abundance in the lives of my team. So I think the answer is abundance for my son and abundance for my wife and our marriage, um, abundance through a multicultural extension, then abundance for the people I care about so much who've helped me collaborate and create.
Mike, amazing. I love that answer. Better than I could have hoped for. So thanks for taking the time to
Mm.
answer it. We talked about the book AI Accelerator. Is there a site direction you want? Probably not a
Oh,
social channel, but is there anywhere you want to direct people to to
yeah.
learn more
You know
about
what
you?
I'm going to do? I'm going to give a place where they can get it for free. How's that? I've got a
Amazing.
here's where you can go get the book for free. And you get to try out my AI system as well. It's www.digitalcafe.ai. And what happens, it's this intelligent, smart AI that will offer to give you the book and a special report with an AI generated mic. So it basically is going to ask you about your business, about your biggest opportunity, your biggest challenges, your biggest dream. And it's going to follow up with a report with an artificial AI generated audio version of me, a video version of me, the special report, and give you the book. And
Wow.
you'll also witness how I think we're going to revolutionize the lead capture follow up, hyper personalization, hyper configuration experience. And it's just it's the most fun I've ever had making something ever. And it's like it's an alive thing. It's a great team member. It's a great augmentation tool.
I've got the tab open. I'll be downloading it immediately after this, and I hope everybody else does. Mike, man, this is better than I could have hoped, and I was expecting a lot. So thank you so
Oh,
much. I appreciate you coming on.
it's my total pleasure. You ask great questions. You're an engaging host, and I love your energy, man. It's just delicious.
That means a ton to me. That's a great way to end the week. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
You